Hi everyone and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Intuitive Psychology Podcast. I am Jill Ritchie, one of your hosts of the podcast, and I'm joined by my lovely friend Sarah Gregg.
Hello.
Hi. So we are back, and as part of this amazing mini-series, which we're absolutely loving, Sarah, we are going to be talking about the inner and outer pushback. So this is all about when you start to chart a new pathway, perhaps to becoming a coach and moving into a different space, and how people react to that. People from your world that have been in your space that recognize you as this specific way, and then you start to make that change and there's some pushback and some friction, and we're going to really dive into that because we have both experienced this, and we know by the multiple people that we've trained in intuitive psychology coaching, they have also faced this as well, Sarah.
Yeah, I think there's so much inner and outer pushback. You know, we've talked in previous episodes about the fear, the self-criticism, the imposter syndrome that comes up, but there's also that outer pushback as well. And I think that outer pushback can often come with judgment and the projection of other people's fears. Like I know on my own journey, whenever I first set up my business as a coach and speaking to even family members about it, you know, I was so nervous to say like, oh yeah, I'm starting my business and, you know, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to coach people. And I could almost see like the fear in their eyes as I shared that. And then came the flood of uncomfortable questions that you don't actually really know the answer to. What does that mean? How do you make that work? Where are you going to find your clients? Is running your business not like really risky? Like, and it all comes from a positive intention, but it's hard to handle like the questions and also just the fear of judgment as to what other people will think, you know, as you kind of shed that identity and move into a more authentic version of you, because that's what feels vulnerable ultimately. When you follow this path and you enter coaching as a profession for the right reasons, you're shedding the identities and the corporate titles or, you know, safety, and you're just stepping fully into authenticity. This is me. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm passionate. This is a life that I want to carve out for myself. Yeah. And making that declaration is extremely vulnerable.
As you were chatting there, I was thinking, right, how did that work for me? When I left corporate, I think I announced that I was training to become an accredited coach, but I think I just shut a lot of noise out, like as in kind of not hid myself away, but also probably put a layer of protection over myself so that I just didn't want to hear any negativity, and I was scared of that. And I feel like it was very vulnerable. And I remember I worked with a business coach at the same time as doing my accreditation, at the same time as working on my own stuff. 3 coaches at once. But when I go all in, I go all in. But I remember that helped me in a way because I was working on my stuff with my coach, which helped me with understanding like my attachment to things, because I remember the business coach had said to me, and like, okay, so you need to go on and create this Facebook Live, and this was back in 2017, do the Facebook Live. And I remember like setting up my room, and I was like, oh, I was shaking. I felt sick. And my sister was like, get over yourself. You'll be fine. You'll still manage to go to Tesco. And I was like, okay. But I went on and I've watched it back, like, because you can obviously still access these things. And it was so funny. I was fumbling about and, you know, I was definitely not that articulate. But I remember coming off and I got so much support from people, because there wasn't loads of people doing it at that time. But my big fear was, oh my God, everyone in my old corporate job is going to be talking about me, and, you know, they're going to be judging me. And then I had to take that to my coach because I was really upset, thinking like someone had said something, and it may or may not have even been directly or indirectly at me. But I definitely took that, and because I felt nervous, I felt vulnerable. I'm like, oh, that's me. They're making that comment at me. Now they might have been, but what she helped me to understand was, why do you care? And I remember her asking me like, why do you care? And I thought, what? what a stupid question that is. Of course I care, because guess what? I was programmed to care what people thought. Like, I honestly thought that was the most ridiculous question to be asked, because I was like, well, of course I care what people think. I'm supposed to care what people think. My whole life, I was taught to care what people think. And I got myself in such a state. And when I look back at that, I think, wow, my attachment was so like big to what people thought. But I had this layer of protection where I kind of shut myself away and lived in this kind of virtual bubble of like Facebook, where I was like, oh, I'm just talking to a screen. I don't really need to face these people. And do you know what, Sarah? In a way, it helped me, because it kind of just helped me keep going at the same time as working on my own resilience and my attachments to people, situations and things. But definitely it does take courage, because maybe your whole life you've been a certain way of, I'm supposed to care what people think. These people in my life matter to me. Therefore, if they disapprove of what I'm doing or they have an opinion on it, it's going to knock my confidence, because I'm not fully qualified yet. I'm not there yet. I've still got lots to learn, and I didn't want to give up. So I kind of felt the emotions, worked through them at the same time. And that's why the inner work for ourselves as we go on this journey is so important. But at the same time, I did, on reflection, have a wall of protection there, so that I couldn't let too much of that stop me.
Yeah, I think I also had a wall of protection in that I set up my website and my social media accounts, and I didn't make them publicly kind of known to friends and family specifically. I wanted to have that safe space to like incubate my dreams and ideas into a place where I felt safe and comfortable. Yeah. And that was a lovely thing to do, actually. And I see that in our community, you know, when our coaches come and train, like they're there for 6 months, and we're encourage them to start up their business, you know, early on in that process for that reason, because you get that little safe space to incubate your idea, to understand like, what is my message? Who do I want to speak to? Like, what is my passion and purpose? And I would say, like, once I really tuned into that, once that vision and purpose was bigger than me, bigger than Sarah, like that shattered all of the judgment. Like when I looked at my life, and honestly, when I still look at the lives that we live in society, like especially as females, and the challenges that males face as well, you see so many brilliant people all operating under the illusion that they're not good enough, all operating through like narratives of the past that keep on playing out into the present. And that like real drive and mission to bring about real change to individuals, and also for me with organizations I was hugely passionate about, I didn't care who judged me, because I knew ultimately, especially when I went into the corporate space, I knew that what I was doing was true. And I knew that it worked, and I knew I had evidence for that. And that gave me that unstoppable force. You know, when people kind of, you know, will go like, oh, what is it that you do, or what is it you work on? I'm so proud of my profession. I started as a bit self-conscious because I was really attached to other people's ideas, like how they would view me. Like, is this a positive profession? Is this a negative? Like, you know, what connotations do people have whenever I say I'm a coach? Like, is it eye roll, oh, you're just another life coach? And actually, I just didn't associate myself with any of that noise or the industry. I put my 2 feet firmly on the ground, and I stood for what I believed in, and I delivered exceptional results. And that gave me the evidence and the passion and the purpose to keep on going. And now it's so funny, like I don't think about how someone would judge me for being a coach. I'm really, really proud of like the work that I do, the work that our coaches do. I think it is the most incredible profession to have for so many reasons. But in order to feel all of those things, we have to overcome like that inner and outer pushback, because there will be some. For you, it might be money blocks and fears. It might be like the judgment that we've talked about. It might be imposter syndrome. There will be something that this profession will surface for you and moving down that path. But my goodness, like when you follow it, when you lean into that part of you that feels a particular way, it actually ironically reveals the answers. It enables you to become that more authentic version of you. And it's gorgeous.
Yeah. I think the quicker you can get on board with that, the better. If you are thinking about changing profession, becoming a coach and stepping into this space, the biggest piece of advice I could give you is to get on board with your own stuff and do your own work. And when I did that very early on, it did allow me, like yourself, Sarah, to create a business where the results that people were getting were exceptional. The testimonials were coming in. I had a 6-month wait list of people wanting to work with me, and I wasn't even a year in business. Now, that was kind of unheard of, because I was the embodiment of the work. I understood what it took to get over those parts and those fears and create that for yourself. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that never comes up for you again. You'll never not have fear again. You'll not have imposter syndrome. Like, let's be real. You're a human being having a human experience. And as you move into multiple layers of evolution and transformation and change, new fears come up, but you have the toolkit and the resources to be able to work through that. But definitely, if you are considering coming into this space, and that is what I love about intuitive psychology, that is why it's built into our curriculum, is that every single student that comes in to train is the embodiment of the work. They are coached for 6 months, not because it's a nice to have, it's because they have to be ethics, responsibility, integrity are so important in this space. You need to be the embodiment of this work. You can only take a client as deep as you've gone yourself, or at least would be willing to go. Therefore, that is why it's built into our curriculum. And that's, if you speak to any of our coaches, and I know we've got, some on the podcast in this mini series, that is the biggest differentiator between regular coaching and our coaching, is they understand what it takes to be able to hold a space for a client, because they walk the talk.
Yeah. And when you have that evidence, you can't help but want to share it with others. Like when you have that evidence of the shift that it's created in your life, the shift that it creates in others, like it spurs you on. It spurs you on to like just live to your fullest potential. Do you know? And I know that's such an overused phrase, but like, that feeling whenever something isn't right. And we've talked about this on the previous episode. Whenever all the signs are in front of you, not even the external signs, whenever your body and your feelings are telling you that like it isn't right, like, and logically it might all make sense on paper and everything's good, but if you have the courage to listen to those, and if you have the courage to go on this journey, it becomes like the most beautiful unfolding like of yourself. And how that will manifest will look very different for different people. We have some individuals that come and train with us, and they are HR professionals and they'll bring it into, their a corporate world. We have leaders that, bring it into a corporate space. We also have holistic healers, previous coaches. We have some people, entrepreneurs who run their own businesses, who bring it in smaller ways into their teams, into like particular events. It all varies. And here's the thing, like when you have that inner and outer pushback, you're looking for certainty, like you want the answer, but the gift is not having the answers, like, because then you have that blank canvas, you're able to really create something that you love. Like you said, living in alignment with your values, doing the things that you love to do. And you might not know what that is. And that's why our coaches are coached during the process, because we don't expect you or anyone. If you're on this coaching journey and you're thinking, oh, but I'm not perfect yet. Oh, but I'm not the finished product. Oh, but I've got more work to do. Like, you're not meant to be. Like, the whole point is, we actually love it when we have application calls and someone is like, I'm in a process. You're like, brilliant. Yay. Because you're going to be coached through this. And the clarity comes through the process. It doesn't come afterwards. Like, there is no set of rules as to how this works or how it looks. And that's the freedom of it. Like, accepting that this journey is going to have a bit of resistance in it. And actually, if you feel resistance, you're doing it right, because it means that something's changing.
And change is great, right? Because I see it, when you're doing it right, when you're doing the work this way, all it's doing is that it's bringing you back more to authenticity, to purpose, to truth, for you to have that freedom. Freedom isn't just it's not the outside, that's a byproduct. It's how you feel inside. Like, there's days, Sarah, when we've talked about this, like when you'll get up in the morning, you're like, wow, we were even saying it this morning before we came out the podcast studio. It's like, wow, like, yes, you were like, what a great day. We had just such
I know,
just that free space.
Total freedom. Like, I never thought that was possible, because no one showed me that it was. Like, yesterday we went to Starbucks, we had a coffee, we had Jill's little dog with us, Ziggy, and we sat and we had like gorgeous conversations, creative ideas, and it gets to be fun, but you have to go through the resistance to get there. Like, there is a journey, and we never want to diminish that. Like, we don't want anyone to listen to our work and to think, oh, but they're just selling us something, or it's another pie in the sky idea. We couldn't stand in integrity behind this business if it didn't work. We get in our careers, we got exceptional client results. Now we get exceptional results for our students, and we can stand by it and say, like, there are no guarantees with this. Like, there isn't. I can't hand on heart say that if you become a coach, all of your dreams will come true. I can't. But what I can say is, if you think about becoming a coach and you take those steps, then all your dreams are possible. They're possible.
Yes. And if you lean more into intuition and you really deeply work with intuition and create space for that, I do believe so many of your dreams can come true, because I do believe when we're so tapped into that, Sarah, we are living on purpose.
Yeah.
By the way, I also want to caveat that with, sometimes you're treading through turd to get to that space, because you've built up this sort of life and narrative of, how you're supposed to perform and how you're supposed to be and what life should look like. And sometimes that means having to have difficult conversations. Sometimes that means having to let go of that job or business or person or people in your life. And you do change. Like, I have changed. Like, we're talking about, like, there's a rub sometimes. Like, I have changed. I'm still me. I really am. But I know that for some people, the me I was, 7, 8, 10 years ago is not the version of me they see now, but they still see me. But the true people that love and care for you, I really do believe they will be there for you. They will support that. But sometimes it's scary for people, especially family members and close friends, when, you're not that party person, or you're not that person who was the gossiper with them anymore, or got caught up in all the politics. You don't align to it anymore. The deeper you connect to yourself, it almost, you said this before, it feels like an allergic reaction you're having to, like, gossip and drama. Like, I'm not here for it. I don't subscribe to it. I didn't even realise I got involved in it before, but I would have. But that's the thing. And so for some people, it's like, oh, you've changed. Good. And I want that for everyone.
Yeah. I think, like, you have to ask yourself, like, this change, like, is it for the better? Mm-hmm. Is it for the better? And if it is, like, why not follow that? Like, you've got very little to lose and so much to gain. And I really, really hope that, like, this episode and the podcast series, like, our full intention behind all of this is to inspire people. Because I know whenever I first started this journey, there wasn't a huge amount of information out there. I didn't really know anyone that was doing it. We've seen this industry grow, like, exponentially over the years, and it grows for a reason. Like, it grows because there are more possibilities. But you have to distinguish yourself. Like, you've got to stand out in this industry. And that's a whole other podcast episode that we could talk about. But follow it, like, listen to it, and actually listen to the parts that are creating that resistance, because they're your gift. And like Jill said, there will be judgment, but probably not as much as you think. No. And that would be the other thing. Like, whenever I think about family kind of questioning, the way that I heard that tone was like I needed to have all the answers, but actually on reflection, they were probably just being curious.
For sure.
It was me needing someone to validate myself at that stage. When I look at friends, they could not be more supportive. Like they share the podcast episodes. They like every social media post. They love what I'm doing and it's amazing. But yet sometimes it's our own fears that we project onto others. Like we take our own fears and we give them the voice of our friends, the voice of family, the voice of our co-workers, because ultimately they're our fears. My fear was maybe it won't work. Like maybe I won't fit in. Where do I belong? What does this new identity for me look like? But in reality, there wasn't a new identity. It wasn't. It was just the next iteration of me. It was the next phase of my journey. It wasn't this like complete shift. Like it was, I'm still Sarah. I'm just more of Sarah.
I know. And you it gets to be like that. Like we when we were talking about when we were sitting in Starbucks, and even just doing things like, oh, I'm going to just go a walk, or I'm just going to take some space. That actually is the work. When you come into the coaching space or the wellness space, a huge part of you being exceptional at what you do is things like walks in nature, a little cat nap in the afternoon if you need it.
Yes.
Sarah loves a little cat nap, don't you?
I love a nap.
She
a
loves
little nanny nap in the
loves a little
afternoon.
nana nap. Things like that, because you are holding energy and you're holding space. And, I would never have dreamed of doing that in a corporate space. It was like, oh my goodness, no way. But we were talking to our students the other week and we were saying to them, like, this is the work. Like taking rest and not going into the next thing and then the next thing and then the next thing is actually the work. Being present with family and loved ones, that is the work, because you are the embodiment of presence, peace, authenticity, space. So you need to live it. My goodness, how incredible and what a privilege that we get to live that as part of and call it a job. Like, what have you done today? Oh, well, I went for a Starbucks, I went for a walk. That doesn't mean we don't work. Like, we have built this business, right? And there's days that we've worked late, but Sarah, we've also learned at points when we've overworked, when we've thought we had to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the bit, like, I think whenever and it's interesting even to observe, whenever we say things like we go for a walk or we don't, I think there still is part of us, because it's conditioned into society to be like, in order to be worthy, you have to have worked hard. Like, I find myself like, I work from home. My husband also works from home. And like, if I'm like, I'm just going to go for a walk, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to journal, I will then over justify myself. But actually, I feel like this is part of our mission, is to shatter that illusion. Like, do we have to work ourselves into the ground? Is that the world that we really want to live in? Like, or do we want to create new roles, new examples for like our children, for those around us? Like, I don't have children, but I want my nieces and nephews and family to look at me and go, do you know what? Auntie Sarah didn't do that. Like, she led a different path. She took a different way. And actually, she was happier. She was more free. Like, yes, it comes with its own set of challenges, but like, I think we've got to stop like shaming kind of the rest and the periods in between. Like, it's got to be part of our mission and our purpose. But this is the joy whenever you do this work. Like, if you can lean into that inner and outer pushback, if you can really listen to it rather than pushing it away, it opens you up to like a new way of life, a way where you're free from all of the rules and the things that you've been taught, and a way for you to really express yourself fully in whatever role that is in. In our next episode, we're going to be exploring becoming the coach. In our next episode, we're going to be exploring becoming a coach in the real world. Look, you've heard from myself and Jill. You've also heard from Ben, but we want to bring some real life stories into the mix. We have two incredible guests joining us on the next episode, Gemma Price and Laura Milne. We specifically wanted to bring you some students from our latest cohort. So they're not long graduated. So these memories are very fresh in their mind. They are going to walk you through their whole experience experience, from deciding to become a coach, what that meant from them. Two very unique individuals. Gemma comes from, she's an entrepreneur. She's a tech entrepreneur. She runs her own business. Laura is a mum who's really finding her purpose. So similar in the profession that they wanted to train in, but very different. And they're going to walk you through the entire process, not from a practical way, but also from that emotional way, how it really feels to go on that journey and what it looks like on the other side, just a few months after you've graduated.
Amazing. So excited for that episode. It's going to be absolutely exceptional. Expect probably real raw conversations and emotions. As Sarah said, they're just a few months out of graduation, and wow, what they are creating in the world is absolutely phenomenal. So we're excited for that one.
Yeah, excited to inspire you further with this mini series.